At the very top left of your screen, it says 1 match left. That is the most important piece of information I can give you, because that means there really is 1 match left. Would you like to hear about it, or would you like to see it? Hands in the air for see it? Thought so. Yeah, go away. So, how about we show you, not game 3, it's game 2 of William Jensen against Yuuki Ichikawa. They're both at 6 and 4. I told you Jensen was up at 54 life. He eventually won game 1. They are in the feature match area right now. For your entertainment, it's time for the best 2 words. It's bonus magic.
Hello and welcome back. We don't want to hold you up too long. We don't want to hold up the players too long. If we head down to the feature match area now, we're going to get to see at least 1 more game of Magic in this round between William Jensen and Yuuki Ichikawa. So on the left of our screen there, that's William Jensen. He and Yuuki Ichikawa both came in at 6 and 4 today, so they've got plenty of opportunities still to get into the top 8 of this tournament. And Ichikawa starting off there with a temple there, a Lamboir Waste from Jensen. Now the reason that the life totals ended up so high in game 1, I believe at one point Jensen got over 100 life, is both of these players are playing decks with Whip of Erebos.
Indeed. Yeah, Jensen and the rest of the Peach Garden Oath are basically, they're playing Black-Green Constellation. I mean, it's got some devotion elements, right? You've got the couple of Nykthoses. You can power out Hornet Queens that way. But they've gone heavy on the Constellation side of the deck with 4 Eidolon of Blossom. They've also, of course, got Whip of Erebos, right? You are spilling stuff into the graveyard and whipping it back out again. And that's what Huey had going on in game 1. Yuuki Ichikawa, meanwhile, is basically Obzon mid-range, but we're calling it Obzon Whip. He's done what some of the Obzon decks have gone to lately with multiple main deck Whip of Erebos, so that they have just a little more late game.
Yeah, there's a lot of similarities between these 2 decks, at least before sideboarding, both of them leaning on some of the powerful enchantments one way or another, though it's only Jensen really that's getting full power from Doomwake Giants in game 1. After sideboarding, though, there's some interesting options available. Yuuki Ichikawa can go down the Doomwake Giant route if he wants. More interestingly to me, though, is he's got a few Planeswalker options, some of which are in his hand right now. We can see both Ajani, Mentor of Heroes, and Nissa Worldwaker.
Yeah, and this is a card that he top-8'd the Pro Tour with.
Yeah, back on his first Pro Tour top 8 of the season. It seems like a while ago for the Japanese player who actually has a very brief amount of experience on the Pro Tour.
5 Pro Tours. That is tied for last in this field. He and Ray Perez have only played 5 Pro Tours each.
And Ichikawa still live to make top 4 here. The very popular streamer from Japan revealing a Thoughtseize on the top of his deck there with Courser of Crufix. And with those Planeswalkers, he's able to attack on a slightly different axis than perhaps he was able to in game 1. And if he can get some early damage in before Jensen can really get things going, then that might mean that he can square things up fairly quickly. Does look like there might be a Whip of Erebos in Jensen's hand, though. That plus any amount of creatures does mean that he's able to leverage his life total pretty sort of easily, get up to a healthy enough life total that no one swing's really going to do too much to him.
Yeah, 2 whips, actually, and he's already spilled a Hornet Queen into his yard.
And that's the combo. That's what you want to be doing in this format with your green-black decks a lot of the time. Get Hornet Queen into play a little bit on the cheap, get your 1 quick hasty hit in, and then say, I've got all these 1/1s that just kind of came along as a bonus. Jensen quick to take the damage there from Courser of Crufix. This is not going to be a game that we're likely to see end particularly quickly. It's not necessarily a massive surprise to me that their game 1 took as long as it did. Neither of these decks necessarily looking to say, I'm going to get on the board fast and just kill you. They're much more inclined to develop an overwhelming board position. Now, Jensen does have Nykthos Shrine to Nyx, and in the fullness of time, that's going to be huge with Hornet Queen, because there's an awful lot of green mana symbols in the cost of that insect.
He's also got Eidolon of Blossoms in play now.
So if you've got lots of mana, what do you need? You need lots of cards. If you want lots of cards, what do you need? Eidolon of Blossoms. It's all kind of coming together for William Jensen here.
Yeah, seriously.
I mean, Whip of Erebos is an enchantment. It is going to trigger that Eidolon. He is going to get to draw a few extra cards unless...
He can also read the bones. Yeah, Billy's basically got all his engines online. He's got the Devotion. he's got the Constellation, he's got the Graveyard Recursion. All three of those angles are available to him this game. The game's really going to come down to whether Ichikawa can leverage those Planeswalkers somehow.
Yeah, he's
I don't know if they're powerful enough to keep up. I mean, Nis is good, Johnny's good. I don't know if they can keep up with what Huey's got going on, though.
Well, yeah, once the life gain kicks in with a few creatures, there's potentially so much life gain that just regular, normal nickel-on-diming is just not going to do it. Ichikawa has the lands that he
do the
needs.
4/4 elementals that Nissa makes count as nickels and dimes? Seems like they're worth at least a quarter, but...
But here comes a Johnny Mentor of Heroes. That letting Yuuki Ichikawa look at the top 4 cards of his deck and try and find the right next step for him in his plan. He takes the Wingmate Rock that was on top and gets to put the other ones on the bottom, and we're going to see what he's going to be drawing next turn.
Interesting. Thoughtseize is kind of a big game. He's got one Thoughtseize in his hand already that he chose not to cast because he preferred to tap out for a Johnny.
I mean, Jensen not really here threatening too much in terms of killing off a Johnny. A Johnny could well hang around for a while. I mean, this could be a matchup where we see plus 100 life for Ichikawa.
You think a Johnny might go ultimate here?
Well, it's interesting. This is a match. We saw a lot of green-black decks of various stripes at Grand Prix Stockholm earlier in the year. And one of the things that's a real concern for some of these matchups that go very, very long is the number of cards in your deck. Especially with the likes of Eidolon of Blossoms, which is not a May. You can find yourself drawing a lot of cards, and if you can't actually put the game away, then things can get kind of messy. So Nykthos Shrine to Nyx making lots of mana there, allowing for a Course of Crucifix, and also drawing Jensen a card.
I mean, it's kind of tricky here. Ichikawa has a Thoughtseize in his hand already, and now there's a second one. So Huey might think that he doesn't have to play the whip since he's got the backup copy. Would have been crazy if he'd lost both whips to those 2 Thoughtseizes, the one that's been slow rolled for a while. But Jensen goes ahead, he gets the whip safely onto the table.
I think that of all of the matchups we've seen on camera thus far, this is the one where I have the most concern that we might have to try and find a way of zooming out the camera to fit all the permanents in.
Wow, another Thoughtseize.
So cards in hand is something that Yuuki Ichikawa can deal with at this point.
Yeah, 2 Thoughtseizes.
I mean, both players now have access to Reclamation Stage. They each have 2 in their sideboard. So there's a lot of targets in this matchup for Reclamation Stage, especially on William Jensen's side of the board. He's got the whips, he's got the Eidolons, and so on and so forth. There are whips from Ichikawa too, if he wants them. And that
His deck isn't really set up to use it, though. I mean, it's more like, well, if we play an Attrition matchup, I'm going to wind up with some stuff in my graveyard. He's not dedicated. He's got the Wayfinders, but it feels like Huey's more all in on that plan.
And it's worth bearing in mind this is not the Sidisi whip deck. It's not necessarily filling its graveyard quite as aggressively. But when someone casts a Thoughtseize and you reveal a hand, you kind of want to reveal enough things that you know you're going to get to keep something good. And that's the position that William Jensen's in here. 2 copies of Whip of Erebos, a Read the Bones, a Murderous Cut, Communion with the Gods, and a couple of lands there.
It's only 1 whip in his hand. The other one's in play.
Oh, sorry, yes.
I think you take the whip. Like, Yuki should assume he's eventually going to draw a way to answer the one that's in play, and he doesn't want Jensen to have a backup. I would take the whip.
And it looks like Ichikawa agrees.
I mean, the Read the Bones is potentially scary, but, I mean, what's the best card he could get off of Read the Bones, right? How about a backup whip?
So Ichikawa taking note of everything in the hand. It's worth noting that these rounds are untimed, and that potentially changes the face of how this match would be played. I don't know that necessarily the same lines would have been taken by either player.
Commune with the Gods is his choice with the second Thoughtseize. It's kind of interesting, right? He's not worried about Jensen drawing cards. He's worried about Jensen spilling them into the graveyard.
I guess that makes sense. I mean, once there's a whip in play.
Right. With a whip in play, he thinks Commune is more scary than Read the Bones.
Well, yeah, Commune with the Gods, you're revealing 5 cards and you get to put 1 into your hand. The rest go into the graveyard, so depending on exactly what those 5 are, it's kind of like drawing 3 to 5 cards. And Hornet Queen on top. and enough mana to be able to cast it thanks to that Nykthos Shrine to Nyx. Plenty of green mana symbols in play already here for William
can he
Jensen.
read? Can he read to draw it now? Read the bones, draw the Hornet Queen, play it all on the same turn?
I think he likely can.
I think he likely can. Yeah, I haven't done the math. Is tricky. 1, 2. Nykthos makes 7.
Now, earlier on in the weekend...
he's got 9 with a land from his hand. I think he can get to 10 mana, which is exactly what he needs.
We've been hearing a little bit about Ichikawa's testing regime for this tournament. Ichikawa, already one of the more popular streamers in Japan, playing every day for sort of 4 hours or so on stream for over 1,000 viewers a lot of the time, like hordes of fans over on Nico Nico. For this event, he's apparently basically doubled that. In addition to working a regular job, you know, with relatively long hours, he's been streaming about 8 hours a day. That's 2 full-time jobs and then getting 5-6 hours sleep and rinse repeat. Yuuki Ichikawa, in spite of perhaps not having as much experience as many of the players in the field, he has a lot of experience with the various formats in this World Championship. And
all right, Jensen used the Eidolon of Blossoms trigger off of playing a Courser in order to get the Hornet Queen into his hand. I think he still had enough mana if he was tapping the carry to play it this turn, but Read the Bones is happening instead.
So Read the Bones lets him look at the top 2. He doesn't need to reveal the one that he's looking at, but ultimately when it reaches the point of him drawing cards, he does have to reveal both because they're kind of drawn separately, and Courser of Kruphix means he's always revealing the top of his deck. Lots of action here for William Jensen.
Okay, he's going to go ahead and whip out a Queen.
There she is, along with her horde of tokens. 4 insect tokens coming along with the Queen. While the Queen will go away at the end of turn, the insect token, will remain.
Chip away to Johnny.
Yeah, now is not the time to start dealing with the 21 life points that Yuuki Ichikawa has. There's plenty of time for that. The rest of the players in the tournament
gain 3.
Getting a chance to hang out, potentially watch this match, or indeed just sort of rest and recover and ponder what they're going to be doing for the rest of the standard rounds, as we see another Nissa Worldwaker on the top of Yuuki Ichikawa's deck.
You find Utter End?
There is an Utter End there, but it looks like Reclamation Sage is the one to go for. As a creature, it is one that Ajani can find, and there's plenty of targets here. I'm guessing that Ichikawa going to go for the whip here, given that he knows that he's already dealt with one more of them. There we go. 2 whips dealt with. We know that there are 3 in Jensen's main deck. Are there any more that can come in from the sideboard for William?
No.
Okay, so one more to deal with in order to know that you've only got to deal 20-ish damage.
Does Huey need a whip, though? He's got Nykthos producing approximately 307 mana. He's got Eidolon of Blossoms. I mean, this is a bad matchup for Abzan in general. I mean, the only way you can really deal with Hornet Queens is sweepers. I mean, Ichikawa's got, you know, enough late game to be able to sort of kind of try to race sometimes, either with whips of his own or with planeswalkers. Jeez, second Eidolon.
Yeah, this is where things get kind of funny, because all of a sudden he's now drawing 2 cards off every enchantment that comes into play. Sorry, Doomwake Giant there coming off the top, so that's another enchantment that he is going to be able to cast. There's an awful lot of options here for William Jensen in terms of making sure that he gets what he needs when he needs it. And in his main deck, he does have 2 copies of Farika, God of Affliction. That can make more enchantments. So if he wants to go deep and mill through his deck an awful lot drawing cards, he absolutely can.
Yeah, in terms of sweepers, Ichikawa doesn't have much. He doesn't have the end hostilities that these decks will sometimes have. He does have Doomwake Giant. That is the one thing he can use to potentially sweep Jensen's board. Jensen's the one with the Doomwake Giant here, though.
Yeah, he's the first one able to clear things out a little bit. Not too much in the way of creatures left for Yuuki Ichikawa now, and even the creatures he has are 1/3s.
This matchup seems really favored to Jensen. It takes him a little while to build up the ridiculous board position, but he's got so much card drawing. The Constellation theme with the 4 Eidolons. He's got the mana advantage with the Nykthoses. He's got an extra whip. I mean, the things that Ichikawa has, I mean, the white cards that really differentiate his list, Wingmate Rock, not good in the matchup, not against Hornet Queen. You know, Siege Rhino is, it's okay. I mean, sometimes you'll get a nice aggro curve, but it's not an aggro deck, not really.
And the interesting thing to me about this matchup is that there are some decks that win slowly where it's kind of a grind. It's mentally very, very taxing the whole way through. You're kind of having to sweat it out to really get to those wins. And if you're having to play that deck across a lot of long rounds, that might really wear you down. I can't help but think that playing this deck must be super energizing.
Look at all the stuff he's got to play. Fun. 2 Coursers, 2 Eidolons, a Doomwake Giant. Got my whip tokens, my tokens left over from the whip.
Yeah, it looks like
a lot of stuff.
Jensen now is perfectly happy to attack. He knows that those Course of Crucifixes can't profitably block. They don't have any power anymore. So he just lets his Planeswalker die off. And Yuuki Ichikawa, he's on 23 life. He's gaining 1 life. Sorry, he's gaining 2 life every time he plays a land. But he's not really got a whole lot going on beyond that.
Yeah, he's seen enough.
So congratulations to William Jensen there.
Yeah, 7-4.
Our bonus game gets to 7-4. There's 3 rounds left in this World Championship, and William Jensen setting himself up to make a bit of a run with that Enchantress deck.
Yeah, he was tied for 5th coming into this round. 6-4 was good enough to tie for 5th. They were basically the top 4 coming into Standard. It would have been Yamamoto and Chapen were on 8-2, and then Shenhar was 7-3 along with... I'm forgetting the other 7-3 player. It's Yuya. Yuya, who hasn't lost since early yesterday.
Absolutely, yeah. I mean,
from the 1-3 start all the way back to 7-3.
The quality rising to the top. I mean, ultimately, so much quality in this World Championship that it's kind of hard to choose. But all we know for certain at this point is we're going to have a great top 4. There's a lot of very powerful decks here. We've got 3 more rounds.
I think we knew that a while ago.
We probably knew that at the point they announced how you qualify.
Exactly. Exactly.
But very happy to see that that matchup there between William Huey Jensen and Ichikawa. Always nice to get a bit of bonus magic, and that's only really something that you can do in this World Championship. There's very few events that run untimed the whole way through. We've hit the end of our time for this round, though. That was the last match, so we are going to pass things back across to the news desk as we take a little break before our next round.
I tell you, it's going to be a very little break, Tim Willoughby. Don't you dare go anywhere, because we've got more magic coming right up. Now, Patrick Chapen likes to take one thing at a time, but at 9-2, it looks to us like even with 3 losses, because he's been pacing the field, of course, he was the 7-0 leader overnight, best guess is he's one of your top 4, but we'll see. We'll see. I can imagine him. I've just passed him back out there. He's watching this. He's probably thinking, don't say it, Rich, don't curse me. But we think he's very, very close to the top 4. Why don't we take a look at our master scoreboard then at the end of this round? That William Jensen result probably still to go in. But let's look at our master scoreboard to remind you where we are with 3 rounds to go. Patrick Chapen, there he is at 9-2. He paces the field. 2 players at 8-3, Kentaro Yamamoto and Yuya Watanabe. Watanabe from 0-2, 1-3, 8-3. And just imagine the names he's had to wade through from 1-3. This isn't just the merely excellent of the Pro Tour. This is the best of the best. And he's up to 8-3. 7-4, still very much alive. Shahar Shenhar, William Jensen, you saw win there. Sam Black at 7-4. They maybe have a loss to give because we think 9-5 is going to be very tight somewhere in that area for making it in. 6-5, they sure need wins all the way, the 6-5. So Ichikawa, Flock, McLaren, Dam, Turtenwald, and Levy clinging on by his fingernails, the French Hall of Famer. And then your 5 and 6s, well, the best they can do is get to 8 and 6 and hope for some really strange numbers to go on. But as you can see, so many players ahead of them, and only the top 4 will come back on Sunday. But there's no doubt that one of the biggest stories here this weekend has been Patrick Chapen. And on the eve of the tournament, he came in to talk to us about his aspirations, his preparations, and just look at what it's done for him. Here comes Patrick Chapen.
I'm here with Pro Tour Journey into Next champion, Patrick Chapen. Patrick, it was a huge year for you. The Pro Tour victory that you'd been looking for a long time. You know, but what was fascinating to me about that event was you were kind of like, yeah, okay, I want a Pro Tour. This is awesome, but it was all about this week.
Yeah, I mean, don't get me wrong. It's obviously awesome. It's just about the best Magic accomplishment of my career by a good amount. But the goal is to win the World Championships. Ever since I was a kid, I always, wanted to win the World Championships, and I kind of always took it for granted that there was a World Championships every year. And the change to these smaller World Championships that are so hard to get an invite to at all kind of changed the dynamic, particularly given that it's hard for me to go to a ton of Grand Prix. So my best chance of trying to qualify for World Championships was winning one of the qualifiers for it. And
right.
the next one was the one I happened to spike.
Right, you called the Pro Tour, winning the Pro Tour, your PTQ.
I mean, the travel award is nice, not gonna lie, but the main thing is trying to get a slot here at the World Championships.
So I have to imagine that your preparation and your focus leading up to this event has been pretty intense. I know Paul Rietzel, who you were working with, told me you didn't let him watch football.
See, that's how I knew he was serious, is the fact that he actually didn't watch football. I didn't think that was like I didn't think that was actually even like a real possibility. But yeah, he flew to Denver for a weekend, but we also we played a lot online. We talked a lot of ideas, and it helps that it's 4 formats, 3 of which are very old and established, and that we've played a ton of times. And then the other format obviously is an online only format that we both practiced a ton online. Great.
So now normally you work with Pantheon for these events. You have a lot of Pantheon people, like Pantheon associates who are qualified for this event. How do you divvy up such a large team? How do you sort of divide your resources so you're not all playing the same deck and all doing the same thing?
Yeah, one of the things that we knew early on is that there's just too many of us. It's too high of a percentage of the field to have everybody as one giant group. So we all just kind of splintered off into little factions. Like Sam did his own thing. Tom was collaborating with his team draft team, right, with Channel Fireball, and he. And then Paul and I obviously worked together, and then the Huey, Owen, and Reed did their thing. And it's more of just the nature of this tournament calls for experimenting with kind of different forms, and we're still not sure what that means. I mean, this is the first time there's been a 24-person World Championships also. So we're just kind of experimenting with a few different things, and part of it is also just the fact that there's tons of formats, but that they're not really new. Right. Changes the need to be together in person for weeks beforehand.
So 4 formats. Which one are you most excited about? What's the one that really has you clamoring to play Magic?
Standard, absolutely. I think this is one of the best standard formats in a long time, and feel really prepared for it, really enjoy it. The games are really good. They're good to watch. They're interesting, but also I just feel like that's one of the formats where I just have the most edge in the world at right now, and I'm really excited to play a lot of that. Although I like all the formats. I mean, the 2 draft formats are 2 of the best draft formats in years, and it's a little bit to my disadvantage because they're 2 skill testing. I mean, this is a really tough crowd.
I mean, but you've really put a lot of work into draft over the past couple of years.
Oh,
I mean,
yeah.
and it's certainly paid off for you.
Yeah, absolutely. I just think this is a really tough crowd to get an edge against in the draft portion. And then Modern, I think, is a very wild card format. There's some really crazy things, and I think that people haven't fully explored what is possible with some of the Khans of Tarkir craziness. Right. And I think we're going to see some of that this weekend.
Oh, awesome. I really hope so. So is that the format you're maybe most apprehensive about, or the format that you're like, wow, I don't know how I'm going to do at the end of these rounds? Like, what's the one that gives you the sweats?
I would say, so Vintage Masters is the one that I have the least confidence in, just because I've played it the least amount of times. You know, at this point I've done maybe 15, 16, 17 drafts, which is not bad, but I've played all 3 of the other formats a ton.
Right. I think Sam Black told us he did like 103 annotated Vintage Master drafts over the course of the format or something like that.
Yeah, I'm going to have to beat him in Standard.
What are the things you worry about when you don't have as many repetitions in a format like that?
So there's just lots of the cards I haven't played with, and there's now I do have a little bit of an advantage in that most of these cards I've played with before, back when they were first printed, whereas I think most of the other people in the World Championships were, small children back then.
Right, right.
But I do think that some of the interactions, like if you're just not familiar, if you haven't been thinking about them lately, you might be slow on the uptake to realize that this combines with this, or this maybe look to do this with that.
Right.
And,
maybe how to pivot within a draft.
And part of it is just not being as intimately familiar with all of the rares in the set, you know?
Okay.
Mostly I've, because my practice has been skewed, I just keep opening Ancestral Recall, so it kind of keeps taking me in a different direction. I don't even know what I'm going to do if I don't open Ancestral Recall at least 3 times. All
right, well, wishing Patrick Chapen luck. This is Brian David Marshall.
All right, welcome back to the news desk. I've been joined by Simon Gertzen. Simon, first time we've had a chance to chat here at the news desk pretty much all day, because you've been a very busy man in the booth watching Kanzatake Limited through the morning. It's a format that's relatively well known. We've cracked an awful lot of boosters of KTK. Some of us have some idea what's going on. Some of us still don't. But what is your takeaway from the morning of watching 3 sets of feature matches?
The Kanzatake Limited format is still not really solved, and I don't think it will ever be solved, because you have the clan decks, which is what you see when you look at the cards themselves, but then you have people going 4-color, 5-color, but you also have the opposite end of the spectrum, 2-color, sometimes with a little splash, so the more tempo-oriented decks.
BDM talked about KTK rising up the ranks of players' draft preferences, and he didn't quite go as far as saying we were dealing with Innistrad. But are we kind of in that territory in terms of depth of content, of structure, of innovation, of secret plans, of trails of mystery, as it were? What's going on in terms of where you pitch KTK in draft format terms?
I'm not going to say it's Innistrad. It does remind me a bit of Rise of the Eldrazi even, because depending on how many colors you play, the slower your deck becomes, but you still have to respect that there is super aggressive decks out there. And if you don't do that, if you just think you can only play dirtly enchantments, then the Sifkas of this world are going to show you that there is 2-color aggro decks that put on so much pressure.
And then they're going to take those decks to the top 8 of a Pro Tour, it turns out, with just maybe an extra Monastery Swiftspear here and there. All right. In terms of the players that you saw in the feature match area and the actual matches themselves, what stood out to you?
The Japanese, hands down. I think I didn't see a single Japanese player lose in the feature match area. I might be off a match, but that's still super impressive. We just saw them climb the ranks in the standings, and it was Yuya Watanabe, of course. Kentaro Yamamoto, also super impressive.
He went 3-0.
There was a lot of teamer going on, like teamer blue-green, one of these 2 archetypes, and that was just. And then on the other hand of the spectrum, we also had CDC splashing red, and it was great to see that these players were just pulling it off as if it was the most normal thing in the world to discard Death Frenzy because you had another one and Master the Way still in your hand.
Yeah. Okay, that was the morning, but we are now very much into the afternoon. It's standard. We now know the makeup of the 24 decks. Do you have any sense yet of what the jackpot answer would have been if you knew what was now out in the room? Is there a deck that you got, man, if only I had gone for X or Y, I'd be running the table here for sure?
There's a lot of CDC Whip, Abzan Whip, anything really with Whip or Doomwreak Giant or CDC going on. And I think there should be a way to break this mirror match, because the games go so long that a few single cards might be able to just allow you to take the victory without much that your opponent can do.
I was at Grand Prix Chile when we saw Soul of Theros come to prominence. Is that a card that people are playing in their lists? I haven't seen deck lists yet for Standard.
Do you mean Soul of Innistrad or like the black Soul?
No, white.
Okay, so I think Whip of Erebos is actually the card that you want most to really utilize your graveyard. I think that actually there might be a game plan that revolves around milling the opponent. In these grindy matchups, we saw at the GP sometimes game 1 taking the full round. I mean, we do have untimed rounds here, which is why we got some bonus magic. But if there's actually the threat of decking, then suddenly card evaluations just change.
Right, because we had Christian Seibold was up against Lucas Blahon a couple of European GPs ago, and there the live totals were in 3 figures for Seibold, with Blahon down at 1. before Blahon comes right the way back, gets within 1 turn of killing Seibold, and then, oh, I've run out of cards, and that's 1 game to you, and there's 6 minutes left in the round.
When has Eidolon of Blossom's mandatory trigger ever been a disadvantage? Think about it.
Right. Yeah, pretty extraordinary stuff. Listen, why don't we take a look at our master scoreboard, get a sense of where we are. 3 rounds to go, and it is starting to become a little bit clearer what's going to be needed to make the top 4. As you can see, we've been saying all along that 7 and 7 not happening. So right there, Ray Perez Jr., Li Shichan, Nam Sung-wook, Reed Duke, Tom Martell, Palavita Damarosa, and Willie Adel, gone for sure. Now the 5 and 6s, Last Chance Saloon, the best they can do, that's Josh, Stanislav, Paul, Jacob, and Jeremy, those 5 can only get to 8 and 6. Well, for one thing, just consider this. The worst that Chapin, Yamamoto, and Watanabe can do is 9-5, 8-6, 8-6. And so then, it's essentially impossible because you know that those 7-4s and 6-5s are going to get paired against each other and players are going to get further up. So you're pretty much gone the 5 and 6s. So by our reckoning, we're now down to just the left-hand side of your screen at 6-5. Now, if one of those 6 players at 6 and 5 can run the table and get themselves to 9 and 5, well, then they have a legitimate chance. But as you can see, there are 6 players already ahead of those 6 5s, and there are only 3 rounds to climb the table. Simon, best guess. Chapin makes it in. 1 at least of Yamamoto Watanabe makes it in.
At least, yeah, maybe even 2.
Very likely 2.
The 1 match makes a big difference.
And then you're looking at 1 of Shenhar, Jensen, Black, or maybe 1 of that bottom 6.
Yeah, we might be seeing tiebreakers.
Let's see if tiebreakers make a difference. 3 rounds to go. It's time for round 12 of the World Championship.